a cliffhanger ending! They sure gambled on getting a second season. And thankfully, Arcane is incredibly successful in other countries because it's only doing medium here in the United States. But I think we will get that season 2. Castlevania never was a big top 10 trailblazer either. And we got, 3 or 4 seasons of that? Whew, thank goodness, because I need to see what happens. Although towards the end of this first season, I kept being like, wouldn't it be incredible if this was live action? Maybe they should, and I kept having to pull myself back saying, no, anime, it's great as it is. But I don't know. I think more people would see it if it was live action. And I think there's a lot of really cool stuff going on here, a lot of new stuff, a lot of types of characters being depicted in ways they never have been in live action before. And I'd love to bring that to a bigger audience. So it's tough. I'm not quite sure. Would you ever want to see a live action adaptation of Arcane? If I were a movie producer, I'd be awfully tempted to call them up. I think I would call them up, in fact. I'd be like, look, not enough people are watching this. Let me help. But yeah, an incredible cliffhanger ending, a surprisingly adult show. It got adult real quickly. It started out with that sex scene with Jayce and Mel, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then it went crazy from there. There was a bordello and drug use and long steamy showers, right? With the steam and the camera just right. And I was like, and really intense flirtation. I was like, okay, you're seriously limiting your audience here, but it's so good. It's just really, really good. Now, instead of doing a spoiler review, I decided to do a character ranking and mix in my kind of mix in my review of season 1 and my thoughts on season 2. I'm curious, what do you think of the release strategy for this? I don't think it worked. I think that you either do 1 episode a week so that everyone can talk about that, or you drop it all at once. I don't think the 3 at a time works very well either for places like Apple TV. They drop 3 up front. I think either you do 1 a week, and I think it'll be interesting, Hawkeye's starting with 2. I think, 1 a week. Either we focus on 1 a week or give us all at once. I think this 3 at a time, and the story's so sprawling, I think it was a little bit difficult to cover. So I'm curious, what would you like to see for season 2? I think this show is strong enough that it could do, but I don't know if people want a week to week on Netflix. But I think if they want to experiment with this, Netflix should just go for it and do 1 episode a week, right? That's what I would, and I think Arcane is a good candidate for that. All right, let's rank some shit. Here we go. And the usual rules apply. You need a character poster to be eligible for a ranking, which means we've got 8 lead characters. But that also means I gotta do some honorable mentions, especially for some characters who I think will be getting posters for season 2. Such a sprawling, expansive cast. That's another reason it's hard to cover it all at once. There's just so much to cover. I write a book on this. I think for season 2, I think I will cover it week to week, no matter how they're dropping it, if they do a weekly release. All right, so Echo, loved Echo. As a League of Legends character, I knew he would show up eventually older. But I did not expect him to be the guy in the owl mask, to be the owl mask leader. And his hoverboard action would make Marty McFly proud. His character in particular, he's so cool. I was like, wouldn't it be great to have this character in live action? Wow. I'm glad that he becomes a team with another character who's worthy of honorable mention, and that's Heimerdinger. I like them together at the end. I gotta say though, I agree with the council. Heimerdinger's inaction to enact change and to stop problems were both bad. He just was bad on every front possible. Forget Jiminy Cricket. He was not I think Heimerdinger saw himself as Jiminy Cricket, like he was the conscience of everyone. Let your conscience be your guide. But I think he was just a nag who was holding everybody back, quite frankly. Instead of saying, how about this? His answer was always like, no, don't do it. I would have removed him as well. I would have voted to remove him from the council as well. But I think getting kicked off the council that he founded was the wake-up call he needed. And I'm excited for him to upgrade Echo's crew and learn from his mistakes and finally do something. I can't wait to see what happens with Heimerdinger and Echo in season 2. Now, Ambessa Medarda. There's a Medarda character in the game, and because I was like, who is this Ambessa Medarda? I think that the other Medarda character might be the child of Jayce and Mel, maybe, right? But then why does he have Mel's last name? I'll be interested to see what's going on here. But Ambessa Medarda, what an amazing character to come into the show so late in the game. Mel's badass general / queen of a mom. And the way they introduced her was incredible. First, you don't see her face. Then when she does show up, she orders a male prostitute. Then she's walking around naked in front of her daughter's boyfriend. I mean, talk about making an entrance. Wow. When Ambessa walked into the show Arcane, I think we all instantly wanted to know a whole lot more about the world Mel comes from, even though we never really heard of it before. We were like, wow, who opened this door? It's incredible in here. And I want to know more about the enemy that's hunting the royal family. That sounds very encouraging, from a story perspective. Obviously, it sucks for the House of Medarda. And then finally, I got to give a shout out to Sevika. I never expected this character to level up the way that she did. And with an upgrade from Jinx, she ended up being a very believable bodyguard and right hand, or is that right arm woman for Silco. Will she take over for Silco? I don't think so. I don't think she's a strategist. I don't think she wants to be in charge. But I do think that with her reputation and her strength, she will be a king or queen maker by choosing who to back, and that person will become Silco's successor. I'll just say it now, I have it later in my notes, but her final fight with Vi was one of the most incredible fights I've ever seen. And the number of strong women characters on this show, I hate to think that's the reason it's not doing better in the United States. That would make me very angry. But it just goes to show that people are open to really strong female characters when they're original. And they are, they are, they're not changing too much stuff, and they're just done really well and really organically. I mean, this show is chock full of women, and it's pretty amazing. All right, ranking time. We got 8. Those are the rules. 8 lead characters, 8 posters, 8 rankings. Number 8, Vander. Easiest to rank because he bows out in Act 1, first 3 episodes. Quite tragically, of course. I felt very bad for him. But he doesn't cast much of a shadow after he left, although his ghost getting Vi to get back up was a nice touch as she basically becomes the new Vander, right? Even down to the gauntlets. Incredible voice work from JB Blank, too. I was like, that Vander was a swell guy. But I never felt that he was really a father figure to Vi and Powder. He seemed more like a very nice Fagin, right? As he ran the kids of Zon. Like, I thought there was a bond, but not like the one between Silco and Jinx, which we'll get to. Then number 7, Jayce. Aside from sexy science time, what was that? I was like, this is fantastic. Jayce is blander than the other characters and easily becomes a pawn of Mel and Viktor. I was like, wow, you are easy to manipulate. No wonder you're so popular. Is he the Prince Charming of Piltover? He certainly seems that way. I thought he was, and Mel certainly did. But when he barfed over the railing of the bridge, very unsexy. That's like Jimmy Stewart fainting in Vertigo. I don't think he has the stomach for what comes next. I was surprised. I was like, wow, Jayce, step up to the plate, man. Now the rankings get a little harder. Caitlyn. I love Caitlyn, but she's only just starting to come into her own. And right now, her flirtation with Vi is the most interesting thing about her. The animation on all these. The animation's so good on this show, I can't stand it. And her cool collapsible gun. Wasn't there anything else she could have traded for that elixir? But I guess that shows how much she's into Vi. Will she become the new sheriff of Piltover now that Marcus is dead? I think she might, but is her mom dead? Someone big has got to die in that explosion. And unfortunately, I think her mom is a prime candidate. You got to have somebody, you got to sacrifice somebody. And I don't think Jayce or Mel are going to die. So that means there's a big old bullseye on Caitlyn's mom. Also, I think her mom has served a purpose. Now it's time for her to martyr it up. Number 5, Mel. To me, Mel got infinitely cooler and more interesting as season 1 went along. And she started out pretty darn cool and interesting. To learn that those gold plates on her shoulders and around her neck are permanent, or at least she never takes them off, that is super cool. I mean, she has such an amazing look. I was like, let's see some other fashions that incorporate that gold plating. I mean, she always wears that dress. I was surprised she wore such a high slit as a teenager in her skirt. But whatever, man. I mean, look what her mom does. But I would love to see some different outfits incorporating that gold plating. But we know she's a master strategist, and she seemed like she had no weaknesses. So it was a stroke of genius of the show to give her this backstory, which exposes a giant weakness. And that she has this family, talk about a crazy family, but also that she does not fit with them, and that she does not jive well with violence. The reason that her mother gave for sending her away, I thought was not only quite touching and interesting, but made a lot of sense. I was like, oh yeah, that seems like she would have to do that. So I think this suddenly puts Mel in a really interesting position. Nobody wants someone who has no problems, and so I think this was a way to give Mel that kind of complexity as a character without undermining her. I mean, what a setup for season 2. And she's an incredible painter. I'd want to buy some of that. I think she's a really, really good painter. And the fact that it represents her emotions is just so great. That shot when she woke up in bed with the painting behind her, I was like, that's great stuff. Number 4, Silco. When the villain dies and you feel bad, that's the sign of a great character. I really liked Silco. Unlike Vander, as I said, I felt the fatherly bond between Silco and Jinx. It got a little creepy sometimes, but it was there. And I believed that he would never have given her up. He never would have given her up, even for his dream, the creation of Zon. Unfortunately, Jinx was nuts, so she just didn't believe him until it was too late. He also had a fabulous look, more great voice acting. And his relationship with Vander, I wish we had seen more of that, but it was an excellent mirror to what happened with Vi and Jinx, right? The same division. He also gave a lot of great advice. I'm going to miss him. Silco was just really fantastic. You always need a really good villain to have a great story, and he was I can't wait to see who's going to step up in season 2 to be the new villain. Maybe who's ever chasing the House of Medarda. Number 3, Viktor. That's right, look how high up Viktor is, because I am intrigued. I have always loved an underdog, and as someone with Eastern European ancestors myself, his accent warms my heart. But also, wow, did his story get incredible as the season went on as well. Linking him up with Silco's mad scientist, didn't see that coming. Again, another stroke of genius. The way this story ties together is just so great. Oh, it's like layers of an onion, and it's so rewarding. Creating a yin and yang between Piltover and Zon when it comes to mad scientists, genius. And what is he turning himself into? I need to see it. I know he becomes a major fighter in the games. Is he the Omen that Heimerdinger keeps seeing? I would like to see that realized. And when his lab assistant got vaporized, that was incredible. I gasped out loud. What an iconic part, a dark part of his origin story. I mean, that character, that assistant was on screen for a very little amount of time, but I felt it was just so tragic when she died. That's really good storytelling and directing. All right, final 2. This was hard. Between the 2 sisters. Vi comes in second. Hailee Steinfeld is having a very good year, and she did a wonderful job here. And it's a huge deal to have an LGBT character as the lead on a show like this. And not just that she is the lead, but that she's so well realized. From her intense flirtation with Caitlyn, it's very sexy stuff, to it not being her defining characteristic. This is like one of the best couples, like they're right up there with Harley and Ivy right now in the animated series. Vi is a force of nature, soft and hard at the same time, which is hard to do. Very hard to do that balance. And I think Hailee Steinfeld voicing the character is a big part of that, why that works. And this kind of brutal, tortured fighter and leader is something you rarely see when it comes to female characters. So it's so great to see it. And as I said, Vi versus Sevika was one of the coolest, rawest, and most brutal fights I've ever seen. And there was so much personality in it too. Oh, so how rare is it to see a female character have to force herself to get up? I loved it. So that means my favorite character in Arcane is Jinx. I see why she's so popular. Total Harley Quinn ripoff, by the way. Total ripoff. But I don't care. I like Harley Quinn, and it's done very well. I mean, Harley Quinn debuted in 1992, League of Legends in 2009. But I think Jinx might be crazier, more dangerous, and far more independent than Harley Quinn. Even today, Harley Quinn, of course, has evolved a lot as a character herself. Jinx is as good a shot as Caitlyn, loved them facing off, and I thought it was a nice touch that Caitlyn has purple hair. So you have pink and blue, right, between Vi and her sister Powder/Jinx, and then who comes between them? But Caitlyn with purple hair, which of course is a mix of the two. So I thought that was really good. I like that. I don't know why, Jinx is so jealous of Caitlyn. It's clearly a very different relationship, but she is. And to see her jealousy of Caitlyn, the way it manifests itself. Remember, I thought Caitlyn's head I thought that was what was on the plate too. Instead of in the box, and I like that Jinx was like, I'm not that crazy. And I'm like, I think you might be, Jinx. I think you might. When Jinx decided to sit in that chair to decide who she was, I mean, that was just great. That was just really, really strong stuff. She has a lot more agency than Harley Quinn too, which I really love. She is a tech genius, able to teach herself hex tech. I love the term hex tech, by the way. One of my favorite things about the show. I was like, someone should actually make hex tech. Elon Musk should be like, yoink, using it. And I would also wager that you could describe Jinx accurately as an artist. I really do feel that way. And her art does seem heavily influenced by the Joker. So basically, Jinx is Joker and Harley Quinn rolled into one. Like Harley Quinn, it's pretty clear she is an audience favorite. And like Joker, she's clearly the main event, the boss-level villain of this whole story. Jinx is the razzle-dazzle, the special sauce, and Arcane would not be as big a deal as it is without her. As good as all the other characters are, Jinx is what makes this show truly soar. Just like Joker, so vital to the Batman landscape. She really is a lot like Joker. I'm excited to see what this wild card, right, comes up with next for season 2. And she certainly helped end season 1 on a bang. I was like, she made it as a shark. She could have just did a rocket launcher. She didn't have to go the extra mile. It reminds me, again, a lot of Joker. Only Joker does that. Even Harley Quinn doesn't go that extra mile. So that's my ranking of the lead 8 characters in Arcane and thoughts for season 2 and about season 1. I'm very curious to hear what you think of all this, what you want to see going forward. Be sure to share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.